Good morning, everyone. It's Instructor Sam's here, and we have Vivi Lorca as well, keeping me company. The word for today is evidence. So I've gone straight to the Roman numeral 3 in the Oxford English Dictionary online definition entry because the first few, 1, 2, 2.5, are largely about law. So even though they're similar, the intricacies of those definitions are a little bit different than what I'm looking for today. So evidence, grounds for belief, example or instance, indication, sign. And I'm just going to leave it at that because that simple idea, grounds for belief, indication, sign, example, instance, that is such a great conceptualization of what your professors are really asking for when they say they need evidence for one of your claims. Really quickly, I want to say that I'm inspired to go over this word with you today because I mentioned evidence a lot on your pre-course reflections. A lot of you provided quick instance, quick example, but didn't develop it enough or give me specific signs or specific indications enough for me to understand it as evidence. So just remember that your audience, including me, didn't go to all your high school classes with you. They probably didn't receive an email that you sent to a colleague. So just glossing over those examples makes them less likely to serve as grounds for belief, right? Because whoever you're arguing for, making a case for, needs to see evidence that can stand up, and they can sort of get a sense behind a peek behind the scene. I kept saying this phrase a lot on your pre-course reflections. So what might serve for evidence for you might not be enough evidence for your audience, and you need to be thinking about that. Okay, how can you get your audience to believe you? And just assume they're skeptics because we're all skeptical in our own ways. Okay. I'm going to link you to a resource from the UNC Chapel Hill Writing Center on evidence. And just really briefly, they talk about the different kinds of evidence in different courses, how you can find different kinds of evidence and incorporate it. So that's a really wonderful resource, but I'm just going to let you read that and go straight to off the shelf. Okay, so an instance of the word evidence in my own reading. Now, so here we are. We have no idea. This is a nonfiction book about reality and what we know about reality by the comic Jorge Cham and also Daniel Whiteson. So they work together to create this sort of, it is multimodal text with great comics and great descriptions based on their expertise. Let's see, Daniel Whiteson is a professor of experimental particle physics, and Jorge Cham also has a PhD in robotics from Stanford. Okay, so this is a really interesting example for me to be providing for you because I have evidence working on two levels here. I'm going to get a little meta. Okay, on one level, they're talking about evidence. What evidence do we have that, for instance, dark matter exists? I love this conversation. So they're reviewing the evidence that has been collected over the years to confirm the existence of this weird mass that we otherwise can't explain in the universe. But they also provide a lot of evidence to support their claim that we are working towards an understanding of dark matter. And they provide a lot of evidence themselves. So like for instance, this little picture, this little diagram that helps their audience. Okay, a poet picked up this book and is working to understand it. So I need more grounds for belief than just a couple of sentences about the evidence that they would understand. They need to kind of explain it to me and help me through it a little bit. So I'm just going to read a brief paragraph to you, and then I'm going to stop and hope you have a great week. Let's see. Astronomers at first tried to guess the mass of galaxies by counting the number of stars in them. But when they used this number to compute how fast galaxies should be spinning, something didn't match up. Measurements showed that the galaxies were spinning faster than was predicted by how many stars they contained. In other words, the stars should be flying off the edges of the galaxies just like ping pong balls in a merry-go-round. I love that example. I can visualize that example. In order to explain the high rotation speed, astronomers needed to add a huge amount of mass to the galaxies in their calculation so that all the stars held together. But they couldn't see where this mass was. This contradiction could be resolved if you assumed there was a huge amount of some kind of heavy stuff that was invisible or dark in each galaxy. This claim was quite extraordinary, and as the famous astronomer Carl Sagan once said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Okay, and so the rest of the chapter is detailing a lot of the different experiments and observations that helped us to understand that this probably does exist. Okay, I'm not going to go over that with you, but I am going to sort of zoom in here to this beautiful diagram. I can't read it well. It's, some galaxies are spinning so fast their stars should fly off the outer edges, but they don't. So something heavy must be holding them with gravity. All right, that's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful week. And don't forget to get in touch with me or your writing mentor, Leilani, if you have any questions.